you should be using bullet passes on almost every throw. This is just one of a bunch of different tips that have helped me go 45-1 so far in my online games. This is one that people love to argue with me about, but I promise you it's true. Bullet passes are the most effective way to get the ball from your quarterback's hands into your receiver's hands. And there is one exception to that, and we'll go over what that exception is in just a minute, but on 95% of my throws, I am using a bullet pass. And so first, let's talk about the different types of passes. We have bullet passes, touch passes, and lob passes. A bullet pass is going to be the fastest type of pass. It's going to have the fastest velocity, the lowest trajectory, and it's going to be done by simply pressing and holding the button of your receiver all the way down. That right there is a textbook bullet pass. I just press and hold the button all the way down. I had a nice pass lead to the outside, and you saw we had a really nice velocity and trajectory on that throw. Now, the next type of pass is kind of the toughest type of pass and probably the rarest type of pass. It's going to be the touch pass. There's a very, very small window between lob pass and touch pass in terms of how much you hold the button down. And so you have to like just press and hold the button very briefly, if that makes any sense at all. It's like you press it longer than for a lob pass, which is just a light tap, but you definitely don't hold it down for more than a half second because then you're just doing a bullet pass. And so a touch pass, like I said, is kind of halfway between the two. But if you can successfully touch pass, then it'll probably look something kind of like that. It'll be kind of looping through the air, and that's a touch pass. And there's really not a whole lot of use for them, but that is what a touch pass looks like. The final type of pass is going to be a lob pass. And this is where the ball is going to go really high into the air. You are just going to barely touch that ball, and that's what a lob pass looks like. And you guys may be saying, oh, you just completed all three of those passes, and therefore all three of those passes are valid. But as you probably saw, the bullet pass, we had a lot more space around our receiver compared to the touch pass and the lob pass. And so the reason that you want to use a bullet pass, guys, is that the defenders are going to react to the ball the moment it's in the air. And so in order to minimize the amount of ground that the defenders can cover while the ball's in the air, we need the ball to be in the air for as little time as possible. And a bullet pass is what accomplishes that. And so once again, if we just throw a bullet pass right here, once our guy gets open, look at how much space we have. And you may be saying, oh, well, you had to wait longer for him to get open. And that is true. You had to wait a tad longer for him to get open. But the alternative of throwing a touch pass or a lob pass, and let me go ahead and run that again because I actually didn't have him on the deep crosser, so that was my bad. But the alternative of throwing a lob pass or touch pass basically means that the defense can run under the ball, they can react to the throw being in the air, and if you don't place it perfectly, which is really tough to do when you're lobbing the ball that high into the air, the defense can react so much faster. And I thought about going through a bunch of different examples, but the reality, guys, is it really just does come down to you want to minimize the amount of time that the ball is in the air. Bullet passes are what allows you to do that. And so please use bullet passes in your games. They're by far the best way to throw the ball. And like I said, it minimizes the time in the air, and it minimizes the amount of time between the quarterback's hands and the receiver's hands. Now, there is one exception. If your opponent is pressing up, like if they're playing press man coverage, which is obviously pretty risky, you have a very good chance of your streaks winning over the top, of getting a super win animation, and then they get a yard or two of separation. When that happens, you can lob your passes with a pass lead up, and it is the best way to guarantee that your receiver catches the ball in front of the defender. And so if we go ahead and run this right here, we can see that our defender on the outside got some separation. I hit a pass lead up, and with a lob pass, I should say, and we catch it in the back of the end zone. I did a lob pass there. So all I did was just tap the button, just a light tap of the button, and then it gives that ball that nice tall arc, and you can put it over the top for the touchdown. We'll do it one more time right here. Once again, just a lob pass with a pass lead up, and we are catching that ball in the end zone. And so those are the only times I will use a lob pass, is if my opponent is pressing up and I have a streak that is beating the defender over the top. Any other time, I am using a bullet pass, and I highly recommend that you guys use bullet passes as well.